So good evening, everyone. We'll get started here. Welcome to tonight's seminar sponsored by the Lane County Master Gardeners. Our seminar tonight is on Gardening for Life. My name is Jan, and I will be your host for tonight's seminar. During tonight's seminar, you will learn the techniques of gardening smarter, not harder, accessible design, tool adaptations, and tips to self-evaluate your current garden practices. Lane County Master Gardeners Adaptive Gardening Committee's goal is for you to enjoy and stay in your gardens for life. Before we get started, a couple of items. Closed captioning is enabled and can be turned on or off with the CC button at the bottom of your screen. Also, during this session, everyone will be muted. There will be time for questions at the end of the seminar. To ask questions, please type them in the Q&A box, and we will answer as many questions as we can during the time allotted. If you have additional questions, please contact your local extension office. When you leave the seminar, you will be asked to fill out a short evaluation. Filling out the evaluation will help us give us valuable information and help us to improve what we are doing. So let's get started by introducing tonight's speakers. Shirley Betournay became a Master Gardener in 2012 after a 37-year teaching career. She serves on 4 Master Gardener committees, enjoys mentoring new trainees, and is a co-chair of the Adaptive Gardening Committee. Sharon Roberts completed the Master Gardening training in 2019. Having had 2 hip replacements, she joined the Adaptive Gardening Committee and earned her badge the same year she graduated. She completed the Master Gardener program or graduated from it. She is particularly keen on using tools that make gardening easier and gentler on joints with the goal of enjoying gardening now and into the future. So let's get started, Shirley.
Okay, we're going to go out in the garden. Here we go. So gardening for life really is a goal. It's been a goal of mine. My grandmother was 92 and she was in the garden when I was younger. And so we just keep going. So basically our mission statement, we are a presentation group for the Master Gardeners. And we try to help people enjoy healthy benefits in gardening, regardless of age, physical, mental, emotional limitations. And we want people to learn to garden for life. And our motto is garden smarter, not harder. So let's jump into the garden. So the goals for adaptive gardening specialists is basically to educate the public. We are a presentation team. We travel around and we go to different garden clubs. We go to different senior establishments, independent living, assisted living, state hospital, and we educate the public in various ways, techniques, and tools, and accessible structures that are accessible for a person to enjoy that gardening, regardless of where they are, where they live, and what their challenges are. So I'm going to put in the first thing is resources. There are a couple of resources that I share usually when I make a presentation. 2 of them are from the OSU catalog that you can access. Enabling Gardening is a 10-minute university from up north. And the other one is Raised Bed Gardening, which has a really nice tutorial of building different containers and examples of different ones. The one in the middle is actually one that I've used frequently when we work with people that are developing gardens. It is from the Seattle metro area, and they have what they call the P-Patch program. And basically what it is a set of suggestions and for basically all of their community gardens up in that area. And so you can go up in there into a garden, and all gardens in the Seattle in that section are accessible, and they have the different paths and they have the different containers, and it is a very nice It's laid out very nicely with pictures and examples of how they have set up their gardens. So I would really encourage you to check those out. So I'm going to close this out. I have a closed caption on my screen, so I can't see my. So the process of assessment, when we make a presentation, one of the things I found as I became an adaptive garden specialist is self-assessment for some people is difficult. They don't want to talk about it. They don't need adaptive gardening. They're not there yet. And so self-assessment, we're going to walk through that tonight. And in a real quick way, and basically have self-assessment. It's private. It should be private. It's for you to gather information. It's also access your current garden. We're going to look at the garden and the needs that you have and the needs that you may need. We've mentioned the resources. We're looking at the plan a garden, and not only plan a garden, but continual change as you need it. The adaptations could be your structures. It could be the height, it could be the weight, it could be the shape of the containers, it could be the garden, the path, and what surface you're walking on. And it also will have the tools, which Sharon will take later on in this presentation. So goals for you. So identify individual needs. That is the self-assessment. The next thing is design safe practices. That's the safety of being able to go out in the garden and be safe with how you are gardening, and that you come back feeling good and not injuring yourself out there. That safety is really important to be able to go out every day. Plant and grow and enjoy. That's the pleasure of garden. Go out and have that tomato. Go out and have that basil. Go out and see the flowers. It's pleasurable, and it brings us joy, and it makes us want to go out there more. You want to strengthen your body, so gardening is actually fitness, and fitness is going to improve your gardening and keep you out there longer. Enjoying the benefits of nature. That's the sensory part of garden. That's where you want to just go out and it just feels good. And different things in the garden bring those sensory to life. And it's like, I want to go out there and do that again. Give yourself permission to change. And that's the honesty part of, as we age, we are going to be changing. Our body starts to age and it changes in different way. Everybody is different. And to be honest and be able to say, yes, I think I probably need to change some, is being honest and truthful with yourself. And then again, evaluating your tools that you use and whether you need to upgrade it and change. Luckily, we have Sharon here and she'll take you through that. So self-assessment, I want you basically 10 fingers, basically one finger for each thing. Current level of ability. What is your current strength compared to 5 years ago, 10 years ago? What is that strength going to be like in 5 or 10 years from now? Okay. The flexibility, be able to move the body, the joints, and be able to maneuver the way we do. As we age, we do lose some of that strength. We do lose some of that flexibility. Balance is a big one. Balance and being safe and walking around things and stepping over objects that may or may not have been a problem before. Kneeling and bending, going down and getting the carrot, going down and pulling the weed, bending and kneeling and going around an obstacle. Okay, reach potential, being able to extend those shoulder joints and being able to reach for something safely and be able to retract those muscles and bring it back in safely. And mobility as we age, some people need assistance in mobility, walkers, wheelchairs, a cane, a walking stick. Mobility is important for us to be able to move around safely. The other is the grip and the strength of as far as your tools. Do they still work? Okay. And then again, medical conditions that you may It might be a temporary medical condition, and it might be a progressive condition. And being able to garden and be able to accept those medical conditions, and again, go out in your garden safely. And again, so current, where you were before, current, 5, 10, 15 years from now, it's sometimes you can't project it, but you can at least assess it. Okay, so assess your garden. So if you have a garden, not everybody has a garden. Many people live in condos and apartments, but they may go to a community garden. So surface, paths, lighting, where's the water at? Are they used, is that hose still 50 feet? Is it still the heavier hose? Are the gardens 100% accessible now that you can reach everything in your garden safely and you don't have to worry about tripping or falling or losing the balance? Are the plants easy to maintain? Sometimes we have big yards and we have big gardens, and as we go through this aging process, maybe we want to pare that back a little bit. The slogan is grow into your garden, no, not to grow out of your garden. Are the areas that you avoid? Are there areas in your garden you have a friend come over, a family member, and they said, no, I last time I went over there, it didn't work too well, so I'm going to stay out of that area. That's an area you'd probably need to address. The spacing between features. And the other one is, the big question at the bottom is, would containers and raised beds be helpful? Would it be helpful to move your garden off the garden floor surface and bring it up to where it is more accessible? So how does accessible gardening work? Basically, you're looking at a traditional garden. You have rows, you have plants that are planted in the ground, and then an accessible garden. Things are all above ground. They have different containers, they have different sizes and different shapes. And basically everything is above ground. So there is minimal bending. And one of the books, a great one, is called Stand Up Gardening. You are basically in an upright position with most of your gardening if you have a garden that has containers. So general design is, you want to put your garden somewhere closer to your house. The farther you walk away, it's distant. I was at a senior housing development, and their garden was quite a ways away, and one of the gals was in a walker, and she had to traverse over the grass and the bark before she ever got to her box to show me what she was growing. It may be that way with your house. Put it closer. Store supplies closer to your garden. Either store the supplies there, or get a bucket and take the supplies with you so you're not running back and forth. Okay. A water source is a big one. Are you irrigating it by hand, or do you have an automatic system? Are you still using that large heavy one, or do you move to something lighter weight? Okay, and is it easy available to be able to water when you need to? The other one, in some gardens, you have a decorative garden and you build gates and doors and paths, and those all have to be, they're on the ground surface and they go through. They have to have a certain distance, they have to have a certain width in order to get through. If you're a walker, if you have to use eventually a walker, a wheelchair, or any special equipment to get into your garden, those gates and doors and paths have to be friendly for you to be safe, be able to go in and out of that garden. And the last thing is, as we age, we may not be able to go out and work in the garden at 1, 2, 3 o'clock and work for 3 or 4 hours on a project. We may have to take some rest. And so basically, incorporate some kind of a resting area, a bench, something, and take breaks instead of trying to go through and get everything done at once. Give yourself permission to rest. So this one was designed by one of our adaptive garden specialists for our garden, and we wanted to make sure that it was accessible And as we put in our features, we had a tape measure and we measured everything out so that the distance you will see on this map, 42 degrees or 42 inches between the three main structures, that's the recommended distance so that a person in a wheelchair could go in and turn around rather than having to back up. So that's a 365-degree turn in able to be there and be welcomed. And so basically you take a grid paper, 1 inch equals 1 foot, and you start designing your garden for the future. So after you start designing it, you should start looking at that surface. You're going to put some containers in it and some features in it. And so what we've done, this is our garden. This is the garden down at the extension. And we've put different surfaces in there for a reason. We want you to be able to test it out, see if it works. We put pavers, we put bricks, we put a slate. We added a slate patio. And we have our main path, which is a 3/4 and 1/4 minus compacted gravel. It's about 6 inches thick. It's hard. What we found out here is that if you have a wheelchair with small front wheels, it's a little bit, it may be a little difficult sometimes of the year because that gravel does get wet and it does shift a little bit. So coming down and trying the different surfaces would be beneficial for you. And we have that at our garden for you to be able to do that. So we're a big one on containers. And the advantage of containers is they're totally accessible. And the garden closer to the house, you could move that container. If it didn't work in 5 years, you can move it again. You can empty the soil out and move it wherever you need to have it. The other thing about containers is the soil warms up really quickly. So you can basically, I garden 365 days a year. I have something in my containers because of the fact the soil is warmer. The other thing is I select the soil in that container. I control the soil texture and planting easily and harvesting. It's right there. It's at hip level. Very, very minimal. Very, very minimal bending. If you put a container in, what is recommended, and this is ADA all the way down to any accessible pamphlet that you would read, maximum height is 24 to 30 inches. And the reason for that is that bending and reaching. The maximum width, if you were to take a little break and you put your hands out in front of you, and this is always kind of fun. You put your hands out in front of you, relax your fingers, and hold it out in front of you. Elbows are not stiff, they're bent. Shoulders are not rigid, they're relaxed. If you look out where your fingertips, that's half the width of your container. You should be able to reach the center of the container. If you can only reach one side of the container on this one, it's blocked from the other side by the fence, then I need a smaller container. If I cannot reach completely over, that means I'm going to be bending. So you should be able to reach to the center of your container. And if you have it on both sides, you have 360, you have full use of the entire, you're not stretching, you're not bending way over, leaning over, it's available to you. So another one that I've noticed that I've gone to some homes and they said, I've got too many flowers, I can't take care of them. The right plant, right place, so that it's accessible and you can take care of it. Maybe reduce some of your watering needs so that not every flower needs to be watered. Easy to reach and manageable number. If you go from a full-blown perennial garden and you can't take care of it, maybe some of those flowers could be given away to friends and you put things in there. It's a little bit more open. Annuals versus perennials. Annuals are planted, they one season and they're done. You don't have to do anything other than recycle them. perennials need to be divided every once in a while because they can get pretty overgrown. So things looking in your garden is you're looking for evergreen of interest and things that need minimal pruning and minimal care. And so a rose is actually, you prune it in February and you prune off the flowers. But I mean, it's there and it's at a height you can reach it. The other annuals work really well in containers. That's still gardening. Another one is rest. We talked about it earlier. Incorporate some place. You could have a bench. You can have a bucket with a padding on it. You can incorporate a shade trellis, and you can get double duty. One, you have shade when you in the hot part of the summer, because the plants are going to grow up over top of that trellis, and it's going to offer you shade in the middle. A nice tree. So always think someplace, a bench. We have a bench in our adaptive garden, and it's just contract bricks with a piece of wood secured on top along the path. We say go vertical, go up, get off the ground. So I have some examples here. One is a pallet garden that we used to have in the garden. If you're going to use pallet, you'll see that we had to put it up on bricks to get it up to the height that we wanted. If you use a pallet garden, make sure that you look on the side. It has a stamp that says HT. That means heat treated. It's not fumigated with chemicals. It's HT, so it doesn't have the residue in the wood. You can have you can add a trellis. What we have here on your right is a cable garden that we put in, and you can lower them, you can raise them, you can water them, you can harvest, you can grow tomatoes in there if you wanted to, you can do flowers. Totally accessible. Be creative. So the pictures that I have represented here in the upper left, that's a former colleague of mine, and she said, I want square box garden and I want them all different sizes. They're 2x6s, and she put them together, stacked them up, and every single box was different. And she loved it. It was totally unique. You could have an area of your yard or a corner where you have an accent picture that has your containers. You can use stone, you can use brick, anything that would hold that soil in. This is my neighbor. She's 83. She gave me permission to take this picture. She didn't want grass anymore. She wanted a garden. And so she actually had somebody take the grass out. She had a sidewalk put right down the middle, and she has her garden boxes on each side. And we talked that eventually they're kind of low, and she says, I might have to raise those boxes. So she's already thinking ahead what is possible. So a trellis also is bamboo. You could grow stuff in the shade. You can grow over top. The one that we have here on the right, that is one of our adaptive garden specialists. And she's sitting in a chair harvesting her sweet pea seeds. It is a trellis that has a cord on it and lowers it right down to your lap. And then you raise it back up when you're done. This is my husband. He gave me permission to take this picture a couple of years ago. He came in one day and said, babe, I can't get to those tomatoes. I think I almost fell out there trying to get to those strawberries. And I said, oh, let's go take a look. And so for the 4th year, we put our heads together and we built a strawberry waterfall. And we stacked 2 together. This one is actually, the top one is actually sitting on the back rim. And I have a rebar that is supporting the front weight of it. And he has enjoyed his strawberries, and I have never heard again that he doesn't have access. So a popular one that I'm seeing a lot now is what they call tabletop or cutout gardens. And basically, there are plans for those, but basically they're made of wood. The one down in here is actually a resin mold from Green Circle Garden. And basically they're brought in, filled up with soil, and a wheelchair has access to that. You can also make access by just having a flower box at a height that's appropriate for gardens. But cutouts and tabletops are becoming really, really popular. fragrance. Oh, the smell, the touch, the vision, and the hearing, and the taste of that tomato. That is all of your senses. We want that. And if you invite nature and bird feeders and hummingbirds and a pollinator type flowers, you're going to bring in some other creatures that just bring pleasure. So a gardener can also be a photographer. These are my friends in my garden over the last couple of years. They keep you wondering. You want to go out in the garden. You want to go see who's at the flower. You want to go see the next little critter that comes in. That brings you joy. That's part of gardening. So I will have to say, some gardeners garden, and also they have a camera in their pocket. So a lot of people were saying they're on condominiums, they're on their environments. They don't have a garden. Then make a stacking garden. Okay, a stacking garden. Okay, basically all you do is find pots that blend well together, and I call it the up down up down up down up. And you have all of this surface around here, all the way around, all the way 365. You could add, and you could have a garden in one structure. Gardeners are also indoor gardeners. The joy of watching a orchid bloom. They're watering it, they're fertilizing it, they're caring for it, they're up-potting it. And another one is very popular right now is an herb garden, and having an herb garden so that it's not only that senses and the smell of fresh herbs, but it's also nutritious. So a lot of what I've learned was going into residential, they say, my garden's inside. So, and they do. It's gardening. It's just a little bit different. Oops. So that's what I want to leave you with is, this is the adaptive garden. We blended the shots together so you can see the whole thing. It's at 996 Jefferson. It is open to the public. We encourage you to come in and walk through it. It's a functional display of it's fully accessible, measured out with all of the different features that you might want to try. It's affordable. We don't spend a lot of money on our containers. We keep a budget. It offers variety. It's part of the community. There's signage on the educational signage on the containers. It tells you what we were growing. It'll tell you the name of it. This one in the middle here is called a veggie trug, T-R-U-G, and it's a one where a person in a wheelchair can roll up underneath and have room for their knees. We plan for displays and we plan for changes because we listen to the public and we hear different things. We brought in the grow bag a few years ago because people wanted to know if they work. So we put it in the garden. And what we did was a grow bag worked, but we had to put it up on bricks to get it up high enough that it was accessible. So you can come in. I would suggest that you definitely come in during office hours, 9 to 4-ish, and just take a walk through the garden and take pictures and see what it's like to be in a totally accessible garden. So with that, I opened up to questions. We also have the plant clinic where you can call the plant clinic and ask for resources. You can call them, and there may, we have about eight or nine people on our team. So, ask for an adaptive garden specialist or information. So any questions?
Did you want to take questions now, or did you want to wait till after Sharon?
We could wait till after Sharon.
Okay. All right. So Sharon, if you want to get on.
I'm going to exit. Correct? I'm exiting, right? Oh, no.
Sharon?
All right, hi. I got everything all set up while muted. So, all right. Let's try again. Turns out I was talking with myself, which is probably fine. Okay. Hopefully, can everybody see my slides now?
Yes.
All right, great. So yeah, now to follow up on what Shirley had to say about once you've done a self-assessment and you designed your garden, you want to use the right tools. And one of the things I've thought about in the couple of years I've been an adaptive gardener is how often we're thinking of it because either we have an injury, we've lost mobility, or we think we may in the future. But you know, honestly, an awful lot of better tools or adaptive tools, you ought to be thinking about it before anything starts to ache a bit. Because if we use good tools and we use the right tools for us, then hopefully we will not have injuries. It'll delay the loss of some flexibility or other ability. So really using the right tool is something you should think about even before you're thinking, oh, I'm getting old. So really the right tool is for everyone. You may have heard the term ergonomic, and ergonomic design refers to design that makes it easier to use a tool and reduces the risk of injury. So ergonomics is for everyone. And as we'll see in a minute, your options can be going and finding a tool that's specifically designed for an adaptive use, or taking a tool you've already got and adapting it, making it work better for you. So you can do this as a DIY project, make it work for yourself, adapt a tool you have, or you can purchase them. And so it's just a simple example of sort of something that's not necessarily, you know, thinking about being adaptive. There's two shovels here. Both of them have these narrow spades, narrow blades with the serrations on the edge. And I wanted one so that I could dig through roots in the garden. And the curved handle was also supposed to be easier on your hands. So this red one is a friend of mine's, and they lent it to me and said, give this a try. And it didn't work at all. It didn't work for me. Well, I'm not overly tall. I am, in fact, really quite short. So I'm 5 foot tall. So a 44-inch long shovel, particularly with that curved handle, just didn't work for me. It got my shoulders and hands way up out of where they were useful. So I thought, well, I'd really like to have this kind of shovel, though. So I looked around and looked for one that is all of 4 inches shorter and makes all the difference for me. So the yellow one is the shovel I bought. It doesn't have the ring handle, but it does have a padded handle. That yellow piece at the top is padded. Both shovels have a nice flat piece at the top, so you can really step on them and go down. They're both sharp. They cut through roots. And the 40-inch one works for me. So, you know, sometimes it can be something as simple as that. It's just finding the tool that's the right size for you. I occasionally, for light work, use children's tools. So what the adaptive gardeners, one of our favorite things to do at our meetings, honestly, is sit around and talk about the latest cool thing we have either designed, found, somebody handed to us, or just share notes about great tools. And we've got quite the tool library. And it's just really amazing what's out there. Increasingly, there are specialized tools. And as I said, again, a lot of it can be do it yourself. I'm not going to run through all the tools today. That would cause everyone to glaze over. But I want to highlight just a couple of things to think about in terms of adaptive tools. Okay, there's that problem. There we go. Right, everybody's got a hand trowel. Some of us consider our hand trowel is practically, it's an old friend. We keep it close. We don't lend it to others unless they're trustworthy. So you've got your favorite. Well, here's 3 designs of hand trowels. Simplest one is this one with the red handle up here on the top, just a gel grip hand trowel. Nothing fancy, nothing about it that shouts, oh yeah, use this. It's really good, but it's got a gel handle. It's just easier to grip. It's a little easier on your hand. Nice, simple hand trowel. Now the blue one here on the right looks a little peculiar, and it is actually considered an ergonomic hand tool designed by a company that makes a full set of ergonomic hand tools, including trowels and spades and all sorts of cultivator, all sorts of different tools like this. And the point is, this curved handle here, again, is a gel grip, so it feels comfortable in your hand. But the point of that curve in the handle is to align your wrist with the direction you're working. So here's a photo of it in somebody's hand. This is a photo from the manufacturer. And you can see that this woman's forearm, wrist, and hand is all aligned with the direction she's working. That's much easier on her wrist and her hands. So it can just be as simple as this curve in the handle. And then finally, you can see this set down here, which definitely looks very different. This is, again, another set. Whoops, hold on. It's another set of tools. There's 4 here with the green and yellow handles, and then one of them is just yellow. There's a trowel, a cultivator. I can't quite make out the middle one. These are like pistol grips. So all you have to do is just form a sort of a fist around the grip. And these were specially designed for people with arthritis who have weak hands and they have weak wrists and really need to get their forearm into the force. And so you can see that in addition, oops, there's my pointer. In addition to the grip handle, you can also attach a brace that would go along your lower forearm to really get all of your hand and forearm engaged with the tool to give you more power when you dig. So this ring goes around the forearm just below the elbow. And then this rod here is a brace that runs between the ring and the tool, like grip and the tool, and allows you really, without having to use your fingers and your hand to grip, allows you to really still work and be able to dig in the soil. So with hand trowels, they're so common and everybody needs one. So there's a lot of different adaptations of hand tools that are out there. Here's another DIY solution. You can simply, again, to add a gel handle to a tool, use pipe insulation. So this up here in the top picture is just a piece of pipe insulation from Lowe's. And over here on the left is a picture of my old tired loppers. And again, this is an adaptation I made before I had any problems with my hands. I just had lost one of the grips on my lopper. You know, it was black. It's somewhere out in the, well, it's how many yards ago? Backyards, I don't even know. But I thought, well, now I need a new grip. And so I used this pipe insulation, used lots of very decorative duct tape to adhere it to the lopper, and practically made it look like a tennis racket handle, and went out and was working with it and thought, darn, this is actually a lot more comfortable than the existing grip I still had on the other side. So I threw it away and added another piece of pipe insulation. And now this is just the greatest thing since sliced bread. So a lot of this, as I've said, is things you might want to think about even before you have an injury or feel that with age you're losing the strength in your grip. You know, and we all have to water. And Shirley was talking about just how heavy hoses can get. And so they're coming out now with a lot of much lighter hoses. So here on the upper right, you can see a collapsible hose that they shrink right down. So they're lighter weight. You don't have as much length to try to manage, or more importantly, to avoid tripping over. You can just quickly pick this thing up. You know, you could throw this in a bucket and take it with you. And you start filling it with water. And then it's kind of like those toys we used to have in the past, that little wrinkly thing, and you added water and it expanded on the kitchen table and suddenly it looked like a dinosaur. Well, these expand out and they suddenly look like a hose, and they hold a lot of water and they drain rapidly and shrink right back down when you're done. So just this kind of hose, nice lightweight hose, can make it very easy to get water where you're working. It's possible, of course, nowadays too, again, if you've got any kind of difficulty with dexterity or strength, threading a hose onto the hose bib and then unthreading it off the hose bib can just be painful and take all the fun out of gardening. You can get quick connecting attachments. You put them on the hose bib and on all your watering tools. And as you move your watering equipment around, you just snap it on. You can use valves to turn water on and off. So even if you're going to be working many feet away from your hose bib, you can use a valve to control the flow. And so again, along those lines, over here on the upper left, we've got a watering nozzle that here on the back has a lever. You can just use your thumb to roll it up and down, control the flow, or turn the water off completely. You know, and this is far more comfortable to, I keep losing a little pointer, far more comfortable to get the volume that you want, and then just hold on to the nozzle. No having to continue to use force to keep it open. And I don't know about you, but I never got really good at using my thumb across the front of the hose to create a nice spray. Usually I would create 2 sprays, and if plants had been properly arranged, I could have watered 2 at once. But this is, of course, much, much easier. You adjust it to where you want it, and you don't have to continue to use your thumb or your fingers to hold it where you want. And again, as we get older, sometimes we just don't have the endurance. So it's nice to just be able to hold the device and water. And Shirley was talking about the enjoyment of getting out into nature. And I think there's just something so incredibly relaxing about watering. And sometimes when you get lucky, if you're out watering, then the birds are flying through and such. So you want watering, because we all need to do it increasingly through our summers. You want it to be something that's manageable and isn't going to cause discomfort or difficulty. So that's highlighting just, you know, a handful of tools. There are many, many more tools to help you with pretty much any kind of task. And we've got a nice library. We oftentimes will show our different tools. People have questions about the tools that are out there and available. And you can go online, find a lot of tools online. And also, of course, you can find a lot of ideas for do-it-yourself tools. So I hope that's helpful and encouraging. And as I've said, I think it's a great idea to be thinking about easier tools now rather than later. So thanks very much for the opportunity to talk about garden tools that are the right tool for you.
Well, great presentations, Shirley and Sharon. Thanks. So do we have any questions? If you have a question, please type it into the Q&A and we'll answer them for you. There is one question and it came in during Shirley's talk. For maximum height of a container, which considerations decide between 24 inches and 30 inches? You're on mute. Sorry.
Not really. What they're doing is they're giving you a range for you to just be within. I would say the stature of the individual person that could go a little taller, could go up to that taller one, and just your height and where your waist is, so that you're you have that bending excessive. So, and there's different ones. What they want is they don't want something higher and they don't want something lower.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a window.
Thanks. Any other questions out there? I will say, mention that somebody, Sharon mentioned that she used pipe installation. Somebody else used a piece of pool noodle.
Yeah.
Pool noodle. There you go.
And that's a great idea, because another thing that's nice is to have brightly colored tools. You know, if that grip that went missing had been fluorescent green, well, then I would have never had the joy of using the pipe insulation.
So what are some good search terms for finding adaptive tools online?
Ooh.
You can do sometimes you can do site://edu and get into a university or educational, and you can look through documents type thing. Also just different companies that we hear about. P2Easy was one of them. Radius is one of them. So it's yeah, I was just saying it's a big industry now.
Yeah, and I think if you just type, you know, adaptive garden tool, you'd get quite a variety of things. You aren't gonna, you know, we always talk in the plant clinic about wanting to use research-based information. Obviously, if you just type adaptive garden tool, you're going to get a lot of companies, and in terms of vouching for how good their tools are, that's a little dicey. But I think too, if you're aware of a particular issue, such as arthritis, garden tools for arthritis, you'll find a lot of tools. You'll find websites, say, from arthritis support groups or patient support groups who will have some information too. And some of the tools I've seen, you know, they'll say that they're recommended by the American Arthritis Association. And, you know, I was thinking too, I realized the tools that I was showing today really emphasized hand strength and grip, which is germane right now. I've got a really sore hand, but so that probably biased me. But again, you know, another thing, of course, that people often are concerned about is lower backs. People have damaged lower backs as they get older, and there are a lot of tools that are out there to help you reduce the strain on your back. So
one person noted that as they're listening to us, they got on Amazon and put in the phrase adaptive ergonomic garden tools. It was showing a lot.
Yeah, and now you've got something to look at all evening long, which is great. You're not being, I think that's wonderful, because there are more and more of these tools.
Okay, another question, Sharon, when you say tool library, are you talking about a display of tools in the adaptive garden, or a book binder display that shows them, or a lending library of tools.
You know, I realized as I said that, yes, yes, we do have a lot of tools that we have accumulated. We have them all cataloged. Shirley would be better about answering how to access that.
You want me to, in the past? So what we did was, I've been in with it for 10 years now. And when we come up with another tool, we do catalog it. So every adaptive garden specialist on the committee has a copy of that. And so when they go and make a presentation, they're basically choosing tools that fit the presentation that they're making. We are a presentation committee. We go out by request, and we go out frequently to garden clubs where we bring our tools and we put them out on display, and people get to pick them up. They get to put their hand around it. They get to feel it. And so we do adaptive garden as per request. So if it's a garden design, if it's a garden containers, if it's a garden tool, and then we bring that supplies to that site. And we bring our tools, and we have a lot of really cool ones.
Okay. So somebody's asking, what was the PVC pipe based around the raised bed in the last photo of Sharon's?
Yeah, let me share that. It's not strictly adaptive, but I have a wonderful neighbor who built this for me. So these are my raised beds in my backyard, and I had strawberries in this bed up until this year, and I was having trouble with squirrels stealing them. And so again, this is a DIY device that Jerry built. It's all, his name really is Jerry, and it works very well. He made this so that it fits over the bed, comes right down to the soil level. The soil's a little low right now. I then used bird netting that I zip tied to it, and it's not attached. So I can move it around to those crops that I have that need to be protected from critters. And so at the end of the bed is a pipe clamp. And then Jerry attached this vertical piece here that you see just dangling off, and it's loose. It's loose on a piece that goes around the pipe. I can tip this up and this arm falls free. The PVC slides into the clamps, and it holds this whole cage standing up while I work in the bed and then lower it back down. And that is one of the great pleasures of having a geological engineer as your neighbor. He's made a couple of them now. I hope that makes it really clear, Jackie. If need be, I can take another picture of it in the lifted up position.
Well, that looks like all the questions for the evening. So thank you, Sharon and Shirley, again, for your great presentation. It was really interesting. I learned a lot since I don't know anything about adaptive gardening.
So Jan, I would like to add that if they do want a presentation, what they do is they call the main extension phone number and request a presentation, and then that presentation is forwarded to the committee, whatever committee is suitable for that. We get that, and then we come up with our speakers, and we call them and contact them, and we arrange a date and a topic, and we show up. With COVID, it might be a Zoom, it might be an outside meeting. That would be then assessed at the time.
Okay, thank you.
Well, and we're all fellow master gardeners. So just ask somebody on the adaptive gardening committee if they have an idea for something that you'd like some help with. And
All right,
we're always
thanks.
willing to sit and talk about tools. Garden tools.
And thanks everybody for attending this evening. Just like to invite you to join us next month on Tuesday, January 21st at the same time, where our seminar will be on Western Oregon gardening and climate confusion. Thanks, everyone. Thanks.
Thank you for your
Have a good
time.
Thank you. Thanks for checking in tonight.